Hi there, it's Rachel Greig here, and today I want to share a tag book pop-up card using Darkroom door stamps combined with dies by Burniston. Karen's a master at designing pop-up style dies, and I knew they'd be a perfect base for Darkroom door stamps, so I'm excited to share the full tutorial on how to create this card. Before I get started though, if you'd like to see more ideas in our future videos, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. So here are the dies I'm using, and they are the 1023 tag book pop-up die set. It has 17 different dies and includes the main tag components to create the card, and then lots of smaller dies to add extra embellishments and details to the project. The packaging also has instructions on the back on how to construct the book together once you've die cut the pieces. To start with, I'm cutting out the main tags that will be used for the front and the back covers of the book, along with the spine die that will form the spine of the book, and some of the smaller tags and square pieces that will be used for the inside of the card. I'm using a Sizzix Big Shot die cut machine, however you can use any die cut machine that is compatible with wafer thin dies. These dies are able to cut through 2 sheets of cardstock at once, so I've just put 2 pieces of mixed media cardstock down and placed them onto the cutting plate, and then the dies on top, and then the cutting plate on top of that before running it through the machine. Now I have all the pieces I want to start with, and I want to colour them up using Distress Oxide inks. I've chosen a couple of colours to use, and I'm swiping them on the non-stick craft sheet side by side. The colours I'm using are Broken China, Bundled Sage, Spiced Marmalade, and Worn Lipstick. Now I'm spritzing the ink with water and placing the tag into the ink and moving it around until the tag is completely covered with the ink. I then also did the little spine piece, followed by the second large tag. The colours by now have blended together, so you can't see much of the pink or blue on that second tag, but I'm not concerned about that as I'm happy with the colours that are on there. But if you wanted to add more colour, just dry the tags with a heat tool and then do the same process again using different coloured inks to create more layers. For my project today though, I'll just be stamping on top, so I'm happy with the single layer of ink that I have right now. And as we'll see both sides of the tags, I'm repeating the process on the other side of the large tags, and this time I'm only using the Worn Lipstick and the Spiced Marmalade colours to make it a little bit different to the other side. Clean up any excess ink and dry the tags with a heat tool. Colour up the small tags and square pieces the same way, but this time I'm creating a different layer of colour. So I've made the first layer with the Broken China and Worn Lipstick colours, and then dried it with a heat tool, and then adding some Spiced Marmalade and Worn Lipstick on top. I only want a hint of these second colours, so I'm just tapping the tags along the edges. Pat off any excess ink with a rag and then dry with a heat tool. Now, we only need one side of these pieces. We're not going to be using the second side, so there's no need to colour the second side of these ones. So after I've done these small pieces, I've now got all my coloured pieces ready to stamp onto. I want to make a subtle background on all these pieces, so I'm using the Torn Text background stamp. This will just add an overall print pattern to the tags and the square pieces, and it doesn't matter which way you stamp it, as the stamp is designed in a way that you can stamp it in any direction and it will look great. I'm using the watering can Archival ink, which will give me a soft neutral grey like a faded book text. The large tags are slightly larger than the stamp, only by like 1 mil or so, so I've stamped a little bit of an extra section on the ends of the tags just to make the design go over the edge of the tag. It's easy to do with this stamp as the text just runs in all directions, so you don't even notice any joins or overlap. Now I'm attaching the spine to the large 2 tags to create the card base. The spine die cut has 2 score marks, so you just need to fold them in and roll the piece in your hands a little just to make them both folded nicely. You can see there's a small gap, and this just gives you some depth in the spine to allow you to add some layers inside the card. I'm using strong Wonder Tape to adhere the spine, as I know this will be really strong to hold the card together. And when putting on the second tag, just line them up together so they match. Next, I want to sponge around the edges with watering can ink to give it a slightly shaded edge. You could do this before adhering the spine too if it's easier. Sponge around the edges of your smaller tags and pieces too. Now I'm die cutting the pop-up component which will go on the inside of the card. You need 2 pieces and I'm cutting them both at the same time to save me some time. I've also cut some of the decorator pieces, but I don't end up using these for this card as I decide later on just to do them in a different colour. This die piece has some score lines to help you fold it in the right direction, so first fold along the edge of the square piece, including the thin side pieces. Fold it all the way over and back again. Next, find the score lines that are beside the tag and then fold them back, making sure you don't fold the tag as well. Now pinch the side folds towards you and the folds beside the tag away from you. So you have your valleys and your peaks. Now test your pop-up piece by folding it all together and out again to make sure it all works correctly and the folds are folding in the right way. I'm using glossy accent adhesive to glue this piece onto the card as it's a strong adhesive and I can squeeze it onto the smaller areas of the cardstock easily. I only put adhesive on the area shown and line it up with the tag base. It's easy to do this as both pieces have the same rounded corners, so just move the pieces until they're matching and then placed together. The rest of the pop-up piece will just sit loosely for now. Now it's time to do the other piece, so you just fold that in the same way as the first piece and attach it to the other tag, matching it up like we did the first time. Now you'll have 2 pop-up pieces all in place. On the end of each piece there is a little flap. So I'm sticking these together now to show you the completed pop-up section, but to make it easier to decorate the inside you could also leave this step to the very last. To stick them together, I'm just adding a bit of adhesive to each of the flaps and adhering each one underneath the other piece, if that makes sense, so each piece is now attached to the other. I'm just using glossy accents and now I'm just holding it in place for a few seconds just to make sure it's secure. And now you can see the whole construction of the pop-up inside the card. Now it's time to decorate, and the first thing I'm doing is sticking in the small tags and squares to the pop-up section. The die cuts are all nested in size so they fit perfectly. I'm using glossy accents again, but you could just use double-sided tape if you prefer. Continue sticking until they're all in place. Now I'm die cutting the tag reinforcers and the little edge parts for the pop-up section. I've chosen a light orange cardstock to contrast a little with the card base, and it also blends in with the Distress Oxide colours. I want to soften the edges, so I'm just sponging around the edges with the watering can Archival ink again, and this only needs to be really soft, so you don't need a lot of ink for this, and just use a light sweeping motion with the blending tool just to get those nice sort of blended edges. And then stick all the pieces in place using glossy accents. I needed another 2 tag reinforcers to add to the outside of the card, so I'm just die cutting 2 more and sponging some ink around those before adhering them to the outside of the tags. Now it's time for some more stamping, and I'm using the Fine Butterflies and Fine Flowers Volume 2 stamp sets. Both of these sets have different size butterflies and flowers, which I think will make a really nice theme for the card. I've chosen a couple of different stamps and now stamping them onto mixed media cardstock with jet black Archival ink. I'm using the jet black Archival ink because it's a permanent ink and it won't run or bleed when I'm going over it with some of the Oxide inks, which is how I'm going to colour them in. So first off, I'm just filling a page with all the stamps and then I'm going to colour them all at the same time. So to colour them, I'm swiping some of the Distress Oxide inks onto an acrylic stamping block to create a colour palette. Spritz it with water to make them into little watercolour puddles. I'll now pick up the ink with a water brush and colour in the stamped images. I'm colouring a whole image with one colour first and then pick up a second colour with the water brush and add some shading around the edge of the image. Since both of the colours of the ink are still wet, they'll easily blend in together. I'm alternating my ink colours to create different coloured flowers and butterflies, and just continue this until all your images are coloured in and then allow them to dry before trimming them out. Now I have all my images ready to adhere into the book. It's just a matter of seeing which images you want to put where, and I'm just sitting here fiddling around trying to figure out where I want the butterflies and the flowers. And I've chosen some of the larger images to go on the ends and then some of the smaller butterflies in the middle section. And now I'm just adhering them with glossy accents to make sure they'll be secure. Next, I'm adding some flowers and butterflies to the front of the card too, and to the inside, front and back covers. There's also plenty of other decorative die pieces in the die set that you could use to add other decorative elements throughout the card. And now I want to add a couple of sentiments to the card, so I've pulled out the Orchids stamp set, which has some really nice sentiments that will fit perfectly. I've chosen two and I'm stamping them onto mixed media cardstock just so it matches the rest of the cardstock used throughout the book, and I'm using jet black Archival ink. And I'm just trimming around each sentiment and then sponging really lightly again with a watering can Archival ink. And I'm adhering one sentiment to the inside of the card and one to the outside. I'm just using foam adhesive to make it pop a little bit off the background, but just remember that this will add some extra bulk to the card, so if you prefer for it to stay flat, just use a flat adhesive for this step. To finish off the card, I'm adding some nice ribbons to each of the tag holes, and I've chosen a soft green sheer ribbon for the front and back cover tags, and then a smaller green dotted ribbon for the inside tags. The only thing left to do now is add a panel to write a sentiment, and I'm adding one to the very back of the card by just trimming down some cardstock to fit the back of the tag. I'm sponging around the edges again with a watering can Archival ink before adhering it to the back. You could also leave one or two of the panels on the inside of the book, so you could write the sentiment in there, or you could even along the inside front and back covers would work as well. The great thing about this die is that it's so versatile and you have all those extra dies to make it as embellished or as simple as you like. Of course, now that I've made this one, I'm keen to try it out on other themes, and I can see it would be really great with our travel theme stamps or our inchies stamps and lots of other different themes and ideas. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I'll link to all the supplies in the description below, and this video is also a part of a blog hop, so if you'd like to see more projects with Darkroom door stamps and Karen Burniston dies, I'll put a link to the blog hop in the YouTube description below so you can see what all the participating artists have created. And if you'd like to see more of our videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can also see lots of other ideas, tutorials, and our complete range of rubber stamps and supplies on the Darkroom Door website at darkroomdoor.com. Thanks so much for watching.